My name is Liz Partsch.
And I am Paul Rowley.
And welcome to Farm and Dairy's Weekly Rundown.
We will be giving you another rundown of all the news this past week.
Yeah.
There was lots to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off?
I guess I could. So I have the latest developments in the really heartbreaking and deeply unsettling case of this family, an Amish family from Holmes County, Ohio, that lost two members after a series of frankly disturbing events at Atwood Lake late last month. So on September 5th, which was last week, prosecutor Ryan Steyer announced that a grand jury had indicted 40-year-old Ruth Miller of Millersburg, Ohio, in connection with the death of her 4-year-old son, Vincent. So the charges that she was indicted include one count of aggravated murder and one count of murder and felonious assault, which are both related to Vincent's death, Vincent without a T. He was 4 years old, as well as child endangering, this is another charge, and multiple counts of domestic violence involving her teenage children, who were also there at Atwood Lake on the day that all of this transpired. So just a little recap. I think you and Rachel actually talked about this story initially. But if anyone else needs to be brought up to speed here, because it's really a twisting, very strange tale. So this all kind of happened on August 23rd in Atwood Lake Park, which is a very popular summer camping destination where it was quite busy that weekend where all of this happened. A lot of people were spending sort of like the celebrating the end of summer, basically. And all of these, this all happened kind of like in full view of everyone at the park. So deputies and park rangers they rushed to the scene of an accident involving a golf cart carrying a group of passengers who they later identified as Ruth Miller and several of her teenage children. The golf cart had plunged into the lake near this restaurant that was pretty busy. And the teens on board included her 15-year-old daughter and two 18-year-old twin sons. They escaped unharmed from this golf cart crash. They were quite shaken. Ruth was also okay. But what happened next left investigators just very puzzled about what was happening and then very concerned. So according to Sheriff Orvis Campbell at a press conference that I attended a couple of days after all of this transpired, Ruth Miller told deputies that she had, quote, given her son to the Lord, end quote. And they didn't know what that meant because she had several children with her. And so they weren't actually quite sure what child she was speaking about. Later on, they quickly learned that her young son, Vincent, was missing, as well as her husband and the boy's father. His name is Marcus. So by that evening, not to recap the whole chain of events, but by that evening, dive teams later found Vincent's body in the lake off the dock where the family had moored a pontoon boat. And the following day, divers also recovered the body of Marcus, who had drowned nearby that very same spot. Authorities believe that Ruth Miller, who was reportedly experiencing what Sheriff Campbell called essentially spiritual delusions, she had acted under this sort of mental health crisis and actually threw her young son into the water. So back to the present day, today, Ruth Miller was actually scheduled to be arraigned on this day when we are recording the show on September 8th in front of Judge Michael Ernest. If she is convicted of the charges that I listed earlier that she is facing, she could face a possibility of life without the possibility of parole. This case raises so many questions. I just, as an aside, as a reporter here at Farm and Dairy, I don't write about homicide very often, and I don't think I have very often in my career as a reporter. I've never covered a story like this before, and it was really hard just to write it. Really, I broke into tears when I started going through some I guess reader submitted photos and videos of the dive team actually recovering Vincent's body.
Wow.
It was really, it really, got to me. So it was, it's a really sad, strange story. And I don't really know how else to
Yeah.
segue.
Well, you've
It's
done
just it's a tough one. So wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've done a great job covering it,
Thank you.
first of
Yeah.
all.
Oof,
And I mean, it sounds like we were talking about earlier
Yeah.
in the office that, she may actually just need some help.
Yeah.
If she does go to jail, hopefully she
Yeah.
gets some help. It sounds like she might be,
Yeah.
I don't know, suffering from, I don't know, she might just be struggling mentally.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then hopefully she gets that help. But
Yeah.
wow, well, good job, Paul.
Thanks. I hope the best for
covering
her.
this story.
Yeah, her children too.
Yeah.
I think about them as well. So
Yeah.
I hope everyone, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, moving on.
Yes, please take us to another
a
story.
more inspirational story
Thank you.
that we have on the front of the paper this week.
Yes.
It's written by our very own Farm and Dairy Managing Editor, Sarah Welch.
Excellent.
Applause. If we had the applause button working.
Yeah, it's not working today. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, she wrote about Claire Coumos. And some of our Farm and Dairy readers may remember Claire from last year, because Welch also wrote about her last year. Claire is a 13-year-old girl with Partsch syndrome, a rare craniofacial condition that causes the fusion of bones in the skull, hands, and feet. Claire has had to overcome many obstacles that many exhibitors haven't had to do because of this to get to where she is because of this condition, which included surgery. And you may ask, where is she today? Well, Claire and her steer Oreo were named the grand champion beef at the Portage County Randolph Fair on August 19th.
Wow, applause.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Claire's first year showing beef cattle was last year with her steer named Socks, but around the time Claire had to get surgery for a condition.
Oh, wow.
Instead, though, she decided to postpone the surgery until 3 weeks after the competition.
Oh.
What followed was a seemingly quick recovery after the surgery and an instant pullback to the exhibitor stadium.
Wow.
Yeah, so in this story, Sarah, or Welch, her last name, tells the story of Coumos' journey to champion, and above all else, just the story of this really incredible young lady who really seems to have found her calling and in what she loves to do. So to read this beautifully written story, you can go and visit the paper or visit farmanddairy.com later this week to read, or I guess when this comes out now, to read about this journey.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Really cool.
Yeah.
Good job, Sarah. And I'm actually going to keep up the good vibes with this. Well, maybe not, but anyway, I so let's just get into it. If for any of you who follow just the news, like all over, not just related to farm and dairy, 2025 has already been quite a wild year for animal mischief, Liz.
Yeah.
So here are some recent examples. This past May in Springfield Township, Ohio, police actually pulled over a woman and detained her for having an active warrant out and also an expired driver's license. When they looked in her car, they actually found her pet raccoon named Chewy. This was a viral story from a couple of months ago. And Chewy was holding a meth pipe in his little hands.
Oh, good Lord.
So that happened in May. Meanwhile, last month, actually, Spanish authorities warned local sailors over there to stay close to the harbor after a string of recent orca attacks on boats. Because if you have also been spending any time on the internet, you would know that orca whales now have just decided that they need to sink boats. I don't fault them for that.
I was thinking good for them. I mean, not good for them because there's people on board and they shouldn't die, but
right. But I get
there is a lot of shady stuff going on in the ocean. I'm sure they want their space back.
Yeah, the logic leap to get to it makes sense. I give them
survival of your species.
Right. So it's all good with me. But sorry to everyone.
No beef against the orcas is what we're saying.
No beef against orcas from Farm and Dairy. No, not at all. And now there's some drama in West Virginia around an animal there. So
wow, what a segue.
Thank you. Yeah. As the State Fair of West Virginia, at the State Fair this year, a prize-winning lamb has now been stripped of its title after testing positive for banned substances. So fair officials confirmed that one of the champion market lambs went through a routine drug test and as a standard practice, and then the results came back positive. That triggered an investigation and ultimately the lamb's disqualification from the competition. Kelly Collins, the CEO of the State Fair, she would not tell me what the substance was that the lamb tested for because it is part of the ongoing investigation. But she also explained that the process of the test is obviously not new. Every year, the grand champion and then the reserve grand champion the animals are tested. And then in this case, the lamb's urine was tested. I guess they used to do blood tests, but now they're doing the urine tests in line with industry standards, Ms. Collins said. And the results of that test that lamb took set off alarms at the lab. Any positive test for any substance, it will cost the animal and the exhibitor and all of that. No ribbons, no trophies, prize money. It could even result in like temporary or permanent bans for the family involved. None of that, I don't think, none of that's finalized at this point because it's just part of an investigation. So there wasn't much that Kelly could say about it. What makes this situation unusual is just how rare it is. Collins told me that she couldn't recall another case like this in over a decade of her at the helm of the state fair in West Virginia.
Wow.
And she emphasized that the testing process exists, not just to keep the competition fair, but also to make sure that these animals are like safe for the food chain, because that is part of like the mission of the fair. The exhibitor, for their part, I could not make contact with. They did not answer my calls or my emails. So that was unfortunate. But they have requested additional testing from another lab, and we're still waiting on those results to see maybe if that just, underscores the first, results, or if there's a discrepancy, and then we, maybe this is all a misunderstanding. So those are still up in the air as well as questions. So we'll see if that reveals anything. In the meantime, the lamb has been removed from competition. 2025 already shaping up to be a year where animals keep finding their ways into the headlines for strange reasons. So
yeah, well, speaking of another, headline about an animal, on Instagram the other day,
yes,
on the social media,
yes,
I saw a video of a woman trying to resuscitate a raccoon
good
after
for her.
it was so drunk and I guess supposedly drowned in liquor, like a moonshine in
my
Kentucky.
Goodness.
Yeah, and this video was just her giving CPR to this raccoon, and then he just popped up and then just ran away. Wild.
Yeah.
So that made headlines probably in Kentucky, and let me tell you guys that the raccoons, they just they want that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just they like crazy stuff.
I think I can
Crazy
relate
raccoons.
to them to an extent. I feel sort of a spiritual connection to raccoons.
Yeah, just wanting the mischief in life.
Yeah, I understand that.
Cool. Well, Paul, I have 3 words for you.
Please hit me.
And that is annihilated, knocked out, and zapped.
Okay.
See what I did there? It's ASMR.
Yeah.
Well, that is how organic soybean farmer Jim Jacobs of Thistledown Farms in Henry County, Ohio, describes his weed zapper.
Ooh.
Yep, a weed zapper.
Wow.
In this week's issue of Farm and Dairy, contributing writer Jake Zakowski writes about Jacobs' grain operation and weed zapper, which electrocutes weeds at 25,000 volts of electricity.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the zapper to be effective, the weeds must grow above the soybean canopy, and the zapper works well on weeds like ragweed, velvet leaf, water hemp, and foxtail.
Okay.
It's a late season weed management practice that uses a positively charged bar that strikes weeds with high moisture content, causing them to crumble within a week.
Wow.
So yeah, it seems pretty effective.
Yeah.
Jacob and his family previously farmed conventional grains, but after switching to organic, weeds really just have seemed almost kind of like a problem. Like, what are we going to do about the weeds? Since organic certification requires only using natural practices.
Okay.
He initially relied on custom weeding zapping to control his weeds, but since buying the zapper, it has made his operation just a lot more efficient in terms of, getting all of that done. He does add, though, that it was not cheap to acquire. The price of a weed zapper, the weed zapper that he at least bought, was $90,000.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
Wow.
that's a lot of money. So he's, I think, probably still paying it off. I don't know, but you have to read the story to find that out. But, on top of this, I have a few questions myself about weeds because, I'm just curious. In this story, Jacob says, the goal of the zapper is for weeds not to exist. And I guess my concern is well, if weeds should exist in a way because, so many insects and bees feed on these weeds. But I guess in the way that he's saying it, it must refer to just the sense of you don't want weeds in your soybeans. I'm sure it's a lot more difficult to come harvest when there's a bunch of weeds in your soybeans. So I guess maybe that's what he means. But I would really find it interesting to learn more or do research or maybe some article here in the Farm and Dairy talking about what is, the benefits of weeds
Yeah.
and where should these weeds, maybe in certain areas you don't want weeds because they affect this certain crop.
Right.
But overall, I think weeds probably have a pretty important sustainability purpose.
Yeah. And did you say earlier today, if I recall right, that the spotted lanternfly, like his arch nemesis is milkweed?
Yeah,
Kind of.
I don't know if milkweed's considered a weed.
Okay.
Is
Right.
it?
I don't know.
I think milkweed's like a native
Is it like a
plant.
good plant?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. Because I'm
that
just thinking, because I was at the gas pump the other day.
yeah.
It was crawling with spotted lanternflies. Like this, I didn't even realize. I pulled up to get my gas. I come outside. I say hello to the
Yeah.
other person. I go to get the gas pump, and this little, it just like across my arm. And I was
Yeah.
like, ew, what was that?
Ew, yeah,
And
they
then
get close.
they get close, and they don't even have the right, and they just like the whole gas pump was crawling with them.
Ew.
And I was like, I considered, didn't act on it, of course, but that raccoon brain of mine considered just paying for gas and covering the gas tank or the everything with gas,
Mhm.
coating it all with gas, and then lighting it on fire and walking away, because we really do need to do something about these lanternflies.
Yeah.
And I thought this is going to be a bold move that conservationists in the long run will appreciate.
Yeah, let's just burn down like the whole
That's what
everything,
that's what
Paul.
I'm thinking. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
just
thinking.
burn
But I
down
didn't-
everything where the lantern flies.
Right. I don't need to catch a felony charge right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Maybe
yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Didn't do that. But anyway, yeah. So I'm very open to weeds and combating the yeah. Can't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I feel like that's a whole different topic of conversation we're not going to get into today about
Yeah.
lantern flies and what kills them.
Mhm.
But maybe soon in the farm.
Right.
Dun,
To
dun,
be
dun.
continued.
To be
Yeah.
continued. Anyway, what do you got for us, Paul?
Well, I have actually a lovely story. I was very privileged to be able to write, which is on the cover of our auction section this week. So I got to meet Jess and John Gray and learn about their story. So they have a farm in Morrow County, Ohio. When they first bought they started out with an initial 10 acres when they bought their property. And they did not buy it for Instagram likes. It was something much simpler. They bought it for their family. So Jess described the moment for me when they finally found this property. If you read the story, you'll kind of read a little bit about the journey that they were on that sort of eventually led them to this place. And they just told me that we just jumped headfirst. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to try it. And so with their middle school daughters at the time on board, obviously they remained on board. At the time, they were all like in agreement, like, let's buy this farm and do this farm life. They just dove head first right in. And so what they had was this a pretty decent amount of land, a 200-year-old farmhouse that was once at the helm of like a 400-acre working farm that had been, parceled off. I don't think that's a word, but divided into little parcels over the years. Today, their farm has grown, and that house is at the heart of Deep Roots Heritage Farm, where the Grays are now practicing sustainable regenerative farming with an eye on feeding their community and future generations, which is really cool. Nothing, of course, that they did came easy. Neither of them, as you'll also read in the article, really came from farming backgrounds. They just kind of found their way to it. And when they first arrived to their property in 2017, most of the land had been actually swallowed up by invasive honeysuckle. So they had to do something about that. So over the years, with trial and error, they have cleared it away. And then now 800 native orchard trees stand where that, gross scrub once grew. And then among them, they actually found some persimmon trees. And then I think they added more to them, which could make for great winemaking someday, because persimmon is like a element of that of wine. So they have like plans for that, and they want to do some marketing around it. So they got big plans. Not every experiment that they have taken on has been a slam dunk. Their first try, they were growing heritage red raspberries at the behest of someone at like their local ag office or something. They were like, you got to grow red heritage raspberries. Like, they will fly off the shelves. You'll become millionaires overnight. That's not what they said, but that's like they never turned a profit from any of their red heritage raspberries. And it's now more of like a freezer project than any part of their business. But that misstep led them to sort of like think, okay, what else can we do? And they ended up creating of demand for eggs. So they now have a big part of their business is eggs. They partner with the local farmers market, and they sell about 50 dozen eggs a week, which is like a
Wow,
crazy
that's a
amount of
lot.
eggs. Yes, and they just kind of fold all of like the egg collections into Sunday chores. Like they just made it a part of their life. Then the livestock came next. They got goats, they got sheeps, and also they got turkeys. And at first they decided to like raise like the big commercial kind. Like you think of like a normal Norman Rockwell painting, like, the everyone's around the Thanksgiving Day table and they have like a giant turkey like in the middle of the table. That was the kind that they started out raising, but it didn't really fit their like pasture based approach. So they they stopped with the turkeys, and they got instead they kind of fell in love with this other breed of turkey called the Narragansett turkey,
Hmm.
which is a heritage breed. And it's very friendly and kind of smart. They're foragers, but they're also endangered. And they got support from a micro grant that allowed them to raise these turkeys and build like a special coop for them that they can be safely kept in at night, safe away from predators and stuff. And then they do rotational grazing with the turkeys throughout their property, which is like really cool. They have about 140 of them, and they are really loud. Like when I went, they are kind of like if you've ever like walked past an elementary school or something like that. Like it's lots of talking and chattering and stuff.
Mhm.
And part of their like the rotational grazing for the turkeys is like really cool because while I was there, John just kind of like was kicking around a place where they had once been kind of cordoned off and fenced off and stuff, and they had moved on from that so that the pasture could like regenerate. And he just kind of kicked up a really old like broadhead arrow that the turkeys had that might be Native American. It might be just really old. It was just like a little artifact. He just like was like, oh, look at that. Yeah, they dig up stuff all the time.
Wow,
They're like
that's cool.
archaeologists. Yeah, I was like, what?
Turkey archaeologist.
Turkey archaeologists. Yeah, isn't that so cool?
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah. So really love that. The farm, they have grand aspirations for like what comes next on the farm as far as like it becoming sort of a learning hub, a living classroom maybe, which was like really cool. They had some ideas for like what that can look like, but it's not the kind of place that you go to sort of take a selfie, or it's not very manicured. Coincidentally, this farm is in the same community that was just featured in a New York Times article about the Make America Healthy Again movement. There's an agro hood over there that is, it's like a bunch of very expensive houses around a working farm. And they sort of have based the farm around their, lifestyle and life there. And this is like very different than that. It's not manicured. It's not like, but it's something else. It's a living example of sort of work in progress that the Grays will tell you rewards them far more than it punishes them. So
Wow.
it was really neat. So that's that story. So if you want to read the full thing, check it out on the auction page of this week's paper.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like a cool story to write
Yeah,
about.
and they were really cool people too. It was really cool
Yeah.
to spend a day with them. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, earlier I had briefly mentioned bees
You did.
when I was talking about weeds.
that's right.
Well, this week our bee columnist, Scott Svab, wrote about honeybees' black sheep of the family.
Oh,
And that is the yellow jacket.
oh,
Yes, the infamous yellow jacket.
Yeah,
So this
okay.
time of the year is yellow jacket season, as yellow jackets, nest at peak populations right now. Food sources are also becoming scarcer,
Yeah.
which is why you may see, lots of yellow jackets roaming around your like ice cream or chicken
Oh, is
dinners,
that
like
right?
sweets
Okay.
or like the salty things.
Yeah.
Svab says most stinging insects like yellow jackets and bald-faced hornets are usually not aggressive away from the nest, which apparently is a common misconception.
Okay.
But most stings are accidental as they try to find something to eat.
Mm.
That's why they're out and about. But Svab provides even better news than that.
Okay.
You can actually trap yellow jackets to get rid of them.
Oh,
And he provides several ways that you can do this. One of them includes using raw meat and suspending it over a container filled with water and soap.
oh,
It's
elaborate, but
very
yeah.
elaborate. I also thought it was really interesting that yellow jackets are attracted to raw meat.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like, when you think of honeybees, like, honeybees are always attracted to sugary,
Yeah.
Obviously they're different, but
Right.
like yellow jackets are wasps. But yeah, it was so interesting and so strange, which is why I just love Svab's columns. Every week he has just the coolest, strangest facts about
Yeah,
bees.
that is nice.
Yeah, right? So to learn more interesting facts and tips, check out the Amazing Bees column in Rural Marketplace of the paper online, or in the paper in the Rural Marketplace area of the paper, or online. To make that clarification.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome.
That's wonderful.
Well, that's our top stories for the week.
Indeed. And to read more, please check out farmanddairy.com, or of course, find your local newsstand. And honestly, you should take a picture with your local newsstand and then send it to us, because I really want to see local newsstands stacked with farm and dairies.
We want to
That
know
actually
where
really
they
cool.
are actually too.
I'm
So,
curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
bye.